विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Studying the chapter on Vishwarupa Darshana has many benefits. One is that there is a expansion of the mind to understand what is Bhagavan, firstly, because usually Bhagavan is compressed into some series of forms that we see in the temples, etc. And here, even though the 10th chapter talked about Bhagavan in the form of various glories, here, looking at Bhagavan from the standpoint of the entire universe is very, very beneficial to expand the mind as a sadhana, number one. Number two, it gives humility. Definitely, when confronted with something full of so much awe, it has to give us what is called amanita or amanitvam, which is going to be described as an important qualification for this knowledge in chapter 13. And so that is one of the things. And thirdly, it cuts the alienation by understanding oneself in a way as included in the whole picture. Because excluding myself, we understand if I exclude myself, then I am naturally afraid. And so we make that connection between fear and division. So a vision of division causes fear. So these are the benefits of Vishwarupa Darshana. Then from there we go to the next chapter called Bhakti Yoga, a small chapter. This chapter and the 15th chapter are the smallest in the whole Bhagavad Gita, only 20 verses, tiny chapter. And out of that 6 verses, namely from 14 to 20, we have already visited. In chapter 2, looking at Jnani Lakshana. Sthita Prajnasya Ka Bhasha. What are the traits of the Jnani? What are the ways in which the Jnani behaves, walks, talks? What is his or her world view? All this we have already seen earlier. And so this is kind of a revision, but from the standpoint of Bhakta, Para Bhakti, from the standpoint of the one who is a Jnani Bhakta, but the same traits are mentioned. This chapter is confusing. If it is not understood properly from the standpoint of Vedanta, it can be very confusing, and it is very confusing because of 2 reasons. One is that there is a rampant, there is an abiding presence of the belief that there is something called Bhakti Yoga. Along with what? Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Arjuna Vishada Yoga. All these things. In fact, somebody said there are 18 yogas. Here yoga does, at the end of which every chapter what we chant. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Upanishatsu, Brahma Vidyayam, and then what? Yoga Shastre. That yoga is Sangati, connection, chapter, name of the chapter. It has nothing to do with anything else. But they think it is a form of yoga. It is one more yoga. And so this is one reason it is confusing, because then such philosophers, what do they say? They say that how can you say bhakti is not an independent way to moksha? Even in the Bhagavad Gita, we have a 12th chapter that is devoted to Bhakti Yoga. This, in fact, we will be disabused of this notion. And then, second thing, the second issue here, the reason why it is confusing is because the sadhanas and the sadhya are given in reverse order. Usually, how do we go? Karma yoga. Sakama karma yoga. We'll talk about all this. Like karma yoga, along with all my other desires, which I am fulfilling, but I am dedicating everything to Bhagavan and receiving it as prasad. Then after that, I become much more of a kind of a more evolved karma yogi. What is an evolved karma yogi? An evolved karma yogi is the one who is not so much all the time interested in fulfilling the desires, who is interested in being of service to the society, and who is just there to serve the society. So that is a little more evolved karma yogi. May have some desires, that's okay, but more or less is interested in being of service, helping others. Then from there, one evolves into understanding Bhagavan and making the mind still. One becomes a upasaka. Upasaka of what? Sagunam Brahma. Ishvara Upasaka. Upasaka means meditator. So this is how we have come across so far. Then after Upasana, the mind gets free to gain Guru Prapti takes place, Shastra Prapti takes place, Shastra Adhyayanam, the study of the Shastra takes place, and then what? One finally gains Jnanam, and this Jnana Yoga expresses itself in the life of the Jnani as Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana means what? As Pujya Swamiji would define it, meditating upon the meditator. Meditating upon the meditator. Meaning, looking into the words of the Shastra, whose meanings one has been taught, whose meaning one already knows. If you don't know the meaning, just saying Aham Brahmasmi, what are you going to get? Other than a headache? Nothing. So you know the meanings, and knowing the meanings, you chew the cud of the meanings, you contemplate. So this is the order in which we have seen spiritual progress, evolution. Here it is confusing because it is put in the reverse order because of the nature of Arjuna's question. So we start off with, right in the beginning, we start off with what? With Nirguna, Saguna, again we'll have to talk about a little bit, we will do that. We talk about the Adi, worship. Again, worship here means Jnanam, not Dhyanam. It's not worship, but it is Jnanam. It is contemplation of attributeless Ishvara, who is not an object, who is the truth of the subject. That is how it begins. And then it goes to Karma Yoga. Okay? So that's why it is confusing, because Bhagavan is very patient and says, this is the sadhya. If you are not able to do this, at least do worship me, at least do upasana about me in a particular form mentally. If you are not able to do that, at least be of service to society. Nara Seva, Narayana Seva. And then if you are not able to do that also, then please at least be a karma yogi, dedicate all your actions, and then receive the results of action as prasada. So that's why it is confusing, because a person can go away with the message that it is enough to just be a karma yogi, it's just enough to sit and do bhajans and then moksha will say hello. Okay, not that bhajans are bad, not that karma yoga is not necessary, not that bhajans are not necessary, but we have to discover the nature of the one doing karma, the nature of the one doing bhajans, the nature of the bhakta is called into question. So then, if we recall, the last verse of the 11th chapter was what? Mad bhaktaha, mad paramaha, mad karma krit. That is how it was. Be the one for whom I am the only goal. Be my bhakta. Do all the works dedicated to me alone. And then that attracts a question from Arjuna. He has been, he recovered from the Vishwarupa, shook himself off like a bird coming out of the water, shook himself dry, and then got repoised to ask a question. The same question has already been asked. A different shade of the same question has been asked in chapter 3 and answered at length. Chapter 3 to chapter 4, full 2-chapter answer was given. And we'll revisit those questions also. Then chapter 5 began. Why? Because he had the same question in chapter 5, another iteration of that same question in chapter 5. And then now, up till chapter 12, he was keeping quiet. He asked a few other things but was mainly quiet. And the same question is wearing another costume, another disguise, the same question. Sometimes that's how it is. In the satsangs, the same question comes from the same person. Time after time after time. Why? Because there is something that has not been understood. Otherwise, why will they ask the same question? The same question comes because either the answer has not been comprehended or the answer has not been accepted. Both. Here it's a combination of both. So let us look at the questions, the history of the questions. So first, in chapter 3, this question took on the form as karma binds, O Lord Krishna. What did you tell me? You said karma binds, you said knowledge frees. Therefore, do karma. You are as though confusing me. This was the question. How can you confuse me like this? I am as though confused by your response. It's like somebody saying, fried foods are terrible for you. They increase cholesterol. Therefore, eat pakodas. What does this mean? I am as though really confused. You please tell me what this means. So here it's a sadhana sadhya confusion. So the karma yoga, sadhana means. Sadhana means. And then sadhya means end, goal. So the sadhana must make you abhimukha, turned towards what? The sadhya, the goal. Otherwise, what is the use of sadhana? If you're just doing sadhana for sadhana's sake, then it will get very boring unless sadhana is the name of a woman. Okay? Otherwise, it will get very, very boring. What is the use? No use at all. So, sadhana must be abhimukha, must be geared towards gaining the sadhya, either directly or indirectly. This he cannot understand. He saw two options. This was in chapter 2, Karma Yoga and Jnanam. First he got the Jnanam. This is how the Atma is, and the one who knows does not have any desires, does not need anything, is happy with himself, herself, doesn't want to do anything, doesn't want to gain anything. And then the rest of the people have to do Karma Yoga. Gain samatva buddhi, gain equanimity, gain ishwararpana buddhi, dedicate everything done to Ishvara, gain prasada buddhi, gain an attitude of gratitude that everything is coming from Ishvara. He does not comprehend the connection between these two. He thinks these are simultaneous paths and I can choose. And we cannot blame anybody else who thinks like that, because Arjuna himself thinks like that. And so, in the 3rd chapter, he says tat king karmani ghore maam niyojayasi Keshava. So he says, if you think karma is jnanam is superior, jayasi te karmanaste mata buddhir janardana. Tat kim karmani, knowledge is superior, you say, karma binds, you say, but therefore do karma. Therefore do karma yoga. He doesn't understand the difference between karma and karma yoga. That's why the Lord says, Loke asmin vividha nishtha. Two kinds of committed lifestyles were given by me. Here both are sadhanas. Two kinds of committed lifestyles are given by me. First you qualify to gain jnanam and then you pursue jnanam for the sake of moksha, which is your very swarupa that has to be discovered. This is what he is told. And then what happens? So then he keeps quiet until when? Chapter 5. He says, what is this sannyasa? I want to know sannyasa. Why can't I become a sannyasi? Why can't I just wear orange and leave this Duryodhana and this big headache called the Kurukshetra battle and all these people upsetting the elders and getting caught in this entanglement? This is my samsara. You say samsara is bad and you have given a way out of this samsara. Why don't you let me take it? And the Lord responds, Sanyasastu mahabaho dukkhamaptum ayogataha yoga yukto munir brahma achirena adhigacchati. I think 5th verse or something. So, sanyasaha, what is that? Dukkhamaptum ayogataha. Sannyasa is what? Difficult to gain without karma yoga. Sannyasa here means the attitude of letting everything go is difficult to gain without karma yoga. Sannyasa has nothing to do with jnanam. Both are lifestyles. Sannyasa is difficult to gain without karma yoga. And then, but yoga yuktaha munihi, the one who has quietened down all the sense organs which are not running anymore towards the sense objects, the one who is yoga yukta, karma yogena yuktaha, the one who is endowed with karma yoga, the means achirena brahma adhigacchati, gains Brahman effortlessly gains Brahman. And then he was also told by the Lord, also in chapter 5, Yat sankhyairhi prapyate sthanam yogairhi api gamyate ekam sankhyam cha yogam cha yaf pashyati sapashyati. So that sthanam means that discovery of the self as already free. Yat sankhyairhi, sankhya means Atmajnanena. So Atmajnanena yat sthanam prapyate, that moksha, that freedom, that liberation which is gained by Atmajnanam, tad yogaihi api gamyate. Even by karma yoga it can be reached. How? We have to write in brackets indirectly as a means. As a means, and then that is the end. This ends mean confusion for Arjuna hasn't come to an end. Hence in chapter 12 the same question comes, because we were talking about bhakti which started already the discussion in chapter 11. That same question, that ghisapita question, means the same question which has been sauteed, stir-fried and served many times, leftovers. That same question is warmed up and presented. And let us look at the question. Om ath dvadashodhyayah. Arjuna uvacha. Evam satatayuktaye bhaktastvām paryupasate ye chāpyaksharam avyaktam Tesham ke yoga vittamaha. Yeah. So Arjuna's question is full of confusion. So no chapter should start with evam, but it is clear he is talking about the last verse, the 55th verse of chapter. Which chapter was that? 11. Mat karma krit mat paramaha mat bhaktaha sangavarjitaha nirvairas sarva bhuteshu samameti pandava. He is thinking of that verse. The one who is my bhakta, the one who is always with me, the jnani, he thinks of that. And then he puts the same question, the confusion between the means and the end, in the guise of bhakti. So the same question is wearing a shawl. Sometimes when you go for a walk in Rishikesh, you get these prayer shawls which say Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Or the shawls which say Hare Rama, like that, they are all written there. So the same question is wearing a Hare Rama shawl. That's all it is doing. The confusion between what is Karma Yoga and what is Jnanam he is confused. He is totally confused. He thinks that both are one and the same. Both of them are one and the same. Now I need to know which is better. There is a block in him. He doesn't want to fight the war. And who can blame him for not wanting to fight the war? Anybody here would like to fight that war after listening to everything? No one. No one wants to fight this war. In fact, everybody, generally speaking, is conflict averse. As a humanity, we are conflict averse. Unless there are a few people who are very, who seek conflict, but generally, most people, I would say a good number of people, majority of the people are conflict averse. If there is a way to resolve it without really getting into a big argument, we would all prefer to do that. Everybody, more or less, wants peace. Everybody wants everybody else and ourselves also to be peaceful and happy. And we will go the extra mile to assure that. Even if it means, okay, fine. Maybe I misunderstood. Okay. So sorry you thought that. Okay, I didn't mean that. We will just, go out of the way to just smooth the wrinkles and let it go. Generally, that's how the people are. And Arjuna, being a sensitive fellow, he himself is also like that. Very much so. He's very empathetic. And you see somebody who is very skilled in art, fine arts. He was a painter, he was a poet, he was a musician, he was a dancer, what all he could not do. He had a well-rounded, developed personality, very soft. If you are a painter and a poet, you can't be just, all cut up. Naturally, the heart is soft. And so here again, he is trying to do everything to avoid this war. And the question is put in a very interesting way in the guise of bhakti. The same question about the means and ends is put in the form of, is wearing a prayer shawl. So, Arjuna uvacha. Evam means, how does one become mad karma krit? How does one become devoted to you all the time? So let us say somebody is devoted to you in this way. He thinks those are the people who are jnanis. And what will the jnanis be doing? Nirguna upasana. He doesn't know. He's just heard all these things. He doesn't know much about it. He has heard these words saguna, nirguna, bandied about. And even though those words are not used here, that is what is implied. So he thinks of two kinds of people. One are the people, evam satata yuktaha ye, those people who are satata yuktaha, always engaged, committed totally. Who are they? Bhaktaha. Though they are all your devotees. And what do they do? Tvam paryupasate. Evam satatayuktaha bhaktaha tvam paryupasate That is the first category of people. And then the second category of people is ye cha api aksharam avyaktam. Then we have to bring down this, do anuvritti for this word paryupasate and borrow it here again in the second line. Ye cha api aksharam avyaktam paryupasate. Two kinds of people. Satata yuktaha bhaktaha, meaning these people described here, the ones who are striving to gain Bhagavan through sagunam, through bhakti in the form of karma, karma yoga, upasana, all this. Sagunam Brahma, upasana, first line. Second is, these people, second group of people, aksharam. Aksharam here is nirguna, aksharam Brahma, the indeclinable Brahman. And then avyaktam. Avyaktam means what? Avyakta. Generally speaking, unmanifest. Here, not an object of the sense organs. Unobjectifiable. That which is not objectifiable, avyakta. So those people who worship, paryupasate, worship means how? You can't worship that which is not an object. Can you worship that which is not an object? How can you worship? You can't worship. Only thing you can do is know that as yourself. That is the worship. So, jnanam is the worship. So, the jnani bhakta who worships on the nirguna or who contemplates on the truth of oneself. Tesham ke, out of the two, which is the best? Who is the best yogi out of the two? Do you see the confusion? Do you see the confusion in the question? Yeah? So the first line is what? Karma yoga. Second line is what? Jnana. It's like saying, shall I finish my school, high school, or shall I get my PhD? Is that a choice? The choice is always between two similar things. You can't choose between dissimilar things. So, like supposing a guest comes to the house. So you say, would you like tea? Would you like coffee? Would you like milk? You give them a choice. Because it's all belonging to the same order and same category of reality. Then let's say, they say, I'll have coffee. And if it's a South Indian household, then one more choice will be offered. Would you like it in a glass? The coffee is consumed in a steel glass. Or would you like it in a cup? Okay? And then supposing the person says, I'd like the coffee but without the glass or the cup. One is the content, another is the container. You can't choose between the two. In fact, without the one, the other cannot be presented. Similarly here, Karma Yoga is the way to what? Atma Jnanam, preparation for Atma Jnanam. So you can't say either or. It's like if one is dressing up to go for a job interview, you cannot say, should I wear pants or should I wear shirt? It's not an option. You have to wear both. You can't say one or the other because this is not two similar things. The choice is between two or more similar things. So this is like supposing if we are talking of seva, then we can say, okay, so should I do dinner seva? Should I do samadhi mandir seva? Should I do mala seva? It's more or less the same. Although I'm sure there are favorites in all of them. Around the 15th and the 30th, I get a lot of notes. Can I please have this but not that? So that's how I know. Some people have preference for this, some people have preference for that, but it's okay, it's all the same. More or less it's the same. But supposing if one were to say, can I do the seva instead of coming to class, instead of studying Upanishad, instead of studying the Vedanta, that would be two dissimilar things. That is not an option. Okay, here also it's not an option. Without Karma Yoga, Jnana is not a possibility. Even if we take of some Siddhas like Ramana Maharshi, etc., they did the Karma Yoga when? Previous Janma. They must have done. So either you do Karma Yoga in this life, or you have done it in a past life, or you will do it in the next life. That's all the options, no other options. So the question itself is confusing. And a confusing question will get what kind of an answer? Confusing answer. In fact, he is more confused after this answer. And the answer, if you don't understand it properly from Lord Krishna's perspective, is also very confusing, the answer also. Because it's like he's asking, for example, if I say, what would be a good example? Like supposing if I want to know the weight of a pot, but instead of asking the weight of the pot, if I say, how many miles long is this pot? That makes no sense at all. Miles is a measurement that covers distance. Weight is completely different measurement. And so therefore, his question is assuming both of them are on a par. On a par means equal. They are not. One is the preparation, the other one is the culmination of this preparation. One is the road, the other one is the destination. Then the answer comes. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam Nityayukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetaha Te Me Yuktatamamataha. So then the second, so one would think, okay, so let's see the essence of the question again before we look at the answer, because then the answer will become very clear right from the start. So the essence of the question is this: are karma yogis superior or are jnanis superior? How are you going to answer this question? And the teacher doesn't want to say, yours is a silly question. You already asked it in chapter 5. Before that you asked it in chapter 3. And because I am the Lord, I know that you are going to ask it again at the beginning of chapter 17. So therefore, I am not going to answer. Or this is a silly question. Why won't the teacher say that? Because of compassion. The teacher will not want to make the student look bad, because already the student is hesitating to come and ask the question. Many times when people ask the question, oh, this is a silly question, they will themselves put that wordings. They will themselves say, this is a kind of a silly question, but I really would like to know. No question is a silly question. It's just that one is ignorant and one wants to understand, that's all. So Lord Krishna, out of compassion, doesn't put the question or the questioner Arjuna down. Patiently he answers. So this is the first verse is the question. What is the question? Satatayuktaye bhaktaha tvam paryupasate. Those that worship you, being very loyal to you, satatayuktaha, being very loyal to you, endowed with shraddha of the ultimate kind, and then what are they? Karma yogis. How do we know they are karma yogis? Because of the last verse of the 11th chapter. Mat karma krit, that karma krit is there. Mat karma krit, mat paramaha, mat bhaktaha, sangavarchitaha, nirvairas sarva bhuteshu, sa mameti. Mameva eti, he Pandava. This was talked about, and so he is comparing, he is talking of Karma Yogi as a Bhakta. So those who have Bhakti from the standpoint of being committed to you through actions, are they superior or are they superior who worship you in a formless form. And then the Lord says something which is the answering, not the question itself, because when we look at the answer, it has nothing to do with the question. The Lord says something that is answering the spirit of Arjuna's question. What is the spirit of Arjuna's question? Hey, I am desperate, tell me what to do here. And what you must do, the Lord gives in the answer. Let us understand that. He says, Mai aveshya. Aveshya means totally being consumed by me, devoted to me. Manaha. So, Mai aveshya manaha. So, the people with minds totally devoted to me, totally immersed in me. Ye mam nitya yuktaha. Those in this way endowed, upasate. Those who worship me in this manner, totally committed to me. Then, why are they totally committed to me? Shraddhaya paraya upetaha. They are equipped, endowed with the Shraddha par excellence, with the best form of Shraddha, with the highest form of Shraddha, they are endowed. Te me yuktatamaha mataha. In my opinion, what I consider is them to be the best equipped bhaktas. Because the jnani is, even though the jnani is a bhakta, jnani tu atma eva me matam, we saw that in the, which chapter? 7th chapter. While discussing the 4 kinds of bhaktas, udara sarva evate, all of them are great. But then, what is the jnani? Atma tu me matam. Jnani atma eva. Jnani is myself alone. That is what was talked about. And so therefore, this is the understanding. And so he says that he seems to say, I favor the karma yogi, Arjuna. So what, you don't like jnanis, or you don't think jnanam is superior to karma yoga? None of that. That is why this chapter is very confusing. He is just telling Arjuna what Arjuna needs to hear. And what Arjuna needs to hear is how to get validation from Bhagavan quickly and completely. How to get validation from Bhagavan? Take to a life of karma yoga. In other words, pick up the dhanu, pick up the dhanush, get up, fight. If you want validation, that is how you are going to get it. If you want my approval for this particular lifestyle, that is what you are going to get, because that is what you need to do. That is how you need to be. There is no option here right now because you are not ready for sannyasa. You are not ready to immerse yourself into a life of contemplation. So then if we talk about Sagunam Brahma and Nirgunam Brahma, again there is confusion. Sagunam Brahma means what? Ishvara with attributes. As what? The cause of the universe. That is what it is. Jagat Karanam Brahma. That's why you can have so many versions of the mother in the next, up till Vijayadashmi. So many versions, so many aspects of Shakti. And then we can have Ganesha, Shiva, Skandha, so many things, iterations of Bhagavan. This is called Saguna Brahma Upasana. Adi Shankara says, Sagunam Chet Dhyayeta. If we are talking of Saguna Ishvara, Sagunam Brahma, which is Ishvara, then it is a topic for Dhyanam. If we are talking about Ishvara without attributes, then Jnayeta. It is a subject matter for knowledge. It's not a subject matter for worship. If we are talking of worship, even Manasa worship, mental worship also, how are you going to worship that which doesn't have attributes? And even in monotheistic religions, which they say, where they say it is not, Lord is formless. But still they insist it's a he. Formless has gender, apparently. And then they still have to, because you cannot worship without forms. Even in the day-to-day relationship. Hello, form. Namaste, form. How are you? Form. It's a form. Did you have lunch? It's a form. Without form, there is no relationship. And if bhakti is a relationship between myself and Bhagavan, there has to be a form. How can there be no form? That's why even in Islam, where they say Allah has no form, they will still face west. You see, the direction becomes the form. There is some kind of connection. It is there. Without that, there is no worship. Worship is not possible without form. When we talk of worship, the form naturally comes in. And then that form is what, Sagunam Brahma, we already saw. It can be the object of Ekarupa Bhakti or Anekarupa Bhakti. We saw that. If Sagunam Brahma, if by Sagunam Brahma I am thinking of my Ishta Devata, goddess, Durga, or what else? Rama, Krishna, Hanumanji. If I am thinking like this, then it is Ekarupa Bhakti. But if I am able to, even in Sagunam Brahma, I am able to appreciate all forms as Ishvara. Still Sagunam, but I am able to appreciate all forms, then that is Anekarupa Bhakti. Nirguna means Arupa Bhakti. Bhakti is still just an attitude where the object of worship now in my understanding has become what? Subject. To subject-object difference not being there, having been obliterated through Atmajnanam, I am able to understand the non-difference between the two. This is the essence of this. But here what does he say? He says, Mayi aveshya manaha ye mam upasate nityayuktaha Shraddhaya paraya upetaha te me yuktatama mataha. So they are superior who are able to lead a life of karma yoga, and karma yoga involves what kind of bhakti? Saguna Brahma Bhakti, Ishvara Bhakti. And Ishvara is worshipped through forms. Ishvara is worshipped through forms, and then this form, and then Ishvara is worshipped in the form of one's own work. That itself becomes a form. And so these kinds of people, I call them superior. They are superior. This of course gets very confusing if you don't know this background, and Adi Shankara writes about this also, and he says that it's all because they don't see the connection between the last verse. Introducing this chapter, Adi Shankara writes, they don't see the connection between the last, the last verse of the previous chapter and the first verse of this chapter to know or to have an understanding of Arjuna's mindset. And then the next one. Ye tvaksharamanirdesyam avyaktam paryupasate sarvatra gamachintyam cha kutasthamachalam dhruvam sanniyam yendriyagramam sarvatra samabuddhayah te prapnuvanti mameva sarvabhutahite rataha. So, ye tu aksharam anirdeshyam avyaktam pari upasate. Paritaha upasate. Who are they? Aksharam. Who are they worshipping? Paryupasate. Worshipping means they are engaged in the contemplation of. Because you can't worship the formless. Not possible. So they who are engaged in the contemplation of the truth of themselves as Ishvara. What kind of Ishvara? Aksharam Brahma. Aksharam Naksharate. That which never declines. That which never decays. So then Aksharam and then Anirdeshyam. Anirdeshyam is that which doesn't have any indicators. Where is it? How does it look like? What is the size of it? Anirdeshya. No indicators, no descriptions possible because it is not an object. If it is not an object, what is it? Subject. It is not an object, it has to be the subject. And so that which is not in the form of an object, avyaktam again doesn't mean unmanifest, it means beyond objectification. So that which doesn't have any descriptions, adjectives, that which is unmanifest and that which is akshara, not subject to decay, unchanging in all three periods of time. Trikalepi tishtati iti sat. That sat as themselves, that Ishvara, without form, without name, arupa, to that one, the one who is committed, either through study or through contemplation, then who is that, this thing, sarvatram, sarvatragam. So suppose after the first line we think, okay, not objectifiable, not describable by any indicators, and then what else? The aksharam, not subject to decay. Okay, maybe it doesn't even exist. No, it exists. Sarvatragaha, tam, sarvatragam. It is all pervasive. Sarvatra gacchati iti sarvatragaha, tam, second case, sarvatragam. So sarvatragam means that which is everywhere. And then at the same time it is achintyam. Achintyam means you cannot come to any conclusion about it. Is it fat? Is it thin? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Why? Because it is free of attributes. Achintyam means karna, vak agocharam. Vak agocharam. It is not describable by speech, by the eyes, by the sense organs. It has no attributes, therefore you cannot describe it. So achintyam and then what else? Achintyam, kutastham. So first let's take achalam and dhruvam. Achalam means na chalati iti achalaha tam. So that which does not move from one place to another. Here there can be a contradiction. What is this? First you say sarvatragam, everywhere it goes. And then achalam, it doesn't move at all. So this we saw already in the Kathopanishad. Asino duram vrajati shayano yati sarvatraha kastam madamadan devam madanyo jnatum arhati. Asinaha duram vrajati. It looks like it is unmoving and seated in one place. But it has gone far, far away, as though. Because it is everything. All movement is because of whose unmoving presence. That is what the idea is. So, the Chaitanya doesn't move. The Chaitanya chetayati, anyan. Chetayati means it causes everything to move. Again we have to add an as though because it doesn't do any work. Just like the sun does not illumine, the sun simply shines. And the shines and illumines are as though verbs. They don't really do anything. It is the nature of the sun to shine. Even though the word shine is a verb, it's not really doing anything. It's simply being itself. So too the Atma, Chaitanya Swarupa Atma, which is Ishvara, which is Nirgunam Brahma, which is this Ishvara without attributes, Shuddha Chaitanya. What does it do? Nothing. It is Asinaha. It is just you can't even say it's in one place. It simply is. It is, and it is limitless. But it looks like it's going everywhere. Everybody that has legs is running around, everything that has legs is walking, crawling around, and then it looks like the Chaitanya is going and coming, but the Chaitanya is not doing anything at all. The Chidabhasa, which is in those beings, which is as though reflection of this Brahman, this Chaitanya, it is borrowed by the beings in order to lead their lives. There it looks like it is moving, it is running, it is coming, it is going, because it has upadhi, because of the form. Upadhistha Chaitanya, upadhi avachinna Chaitanya, a Chaitanya that is as though conditioned by the upadhi, and then nirguna Chaitanya. Both are one and the same. Conditioned as it were by the upadhi, you see the person talking, sleeping, waking, eating, laughing, crying, and enjoying. And then when there is no upadhi, the Chaitanya simply is. So therefore, the words sarvatrakam and sarvatrakam and achalam are not in contradiction at all. Kutastha, so achalam, and then dhruvam. Dhruvam means it's not going anywhere. It is so certain, whose existence is completely at all times certain. Even Dhruva Nakshatra may not be able to see. One may be not able to see. Dhruva Nakshatra is so called because it doesn't move. What is that in English? Pole star. Yeah, pole star, north star, whatever. Pole star doesn't move. That's why you can fix all the directions. Even if you are lost somewhere, you don't have a compass, then you can look at Dhruva and then say, okay, I am here. You can then do the Anumana of the directions. You can easily do that. But then here, what has happened? Here, even it is cloudy, Dhruva Nakshatra also is not available. But this is what? This is always the same, always available. Available for appreciation. Always. Even in sleep it is available. In all the three avasthas it is available. Dhruvam. Achalam, Dhruvam. And then another very intriguing word that will also make its presence felt in the 15th chapter, which is what? Kutastha. This has two derivations, at least. There is also one more, but that's not pertinent here. We won't discuss that. The first derivation is kutastha. Whenever the word ends in stha, we have to say tishtati. So, kutavat tishtati. Like a kuta, it remains. What is kuta? Kuta is anvil. Nobody knows anvil now. Because we are now have aped the West in buy and throw culture. But if you ask your parents or grandparents, dragging themselves through the streets because one chappal was broken and the other chappal was okay. Chappal means slipper. And then what would they do? At some corner, road corner, this person would be sitting, the cobbler. So cobbler is sitting, and then cobbler has some kind of a funny little yantra there in front of him, and it has many protrusions. That is for various shoes, to put the heel or the toe, different sizes. But it is so solid you can't even lift it. So then the person drags the shoe or the slipper and then goes, and then the cobbler will give a piece of cardboard to stand on. Gives the piece of cardboard, takes the slipper, looks at it, puts it on this anvil, kuta, and then either puts the stitches or the nails or the glue, nicely bangs it in place, makes it dry, and then gives it back to the person Okay, here is your slipper as good as new. This is called anvil. Kuta. Brahman, Atma is described as Kuta because it is not going anywhere. On that platform, Adhishthana, all the noise takes place, all the shape shifting takes place, all the comings and going as it were takes place without it undergoing any change whatsoever. Isn't that wonderful? This is what is called Kutavat Tishtati. And then the other meaning which Pujya Swamiji gives here for this particular verse is Kutilayam Gatihi Kuta. Kute Tishtati, not Kutavat Tishtati, Kute Tishtati. What is Kuta? Kutilayam Gatau. Kutila means what? Crooked. Crooked. Like the steps of a crab. If you notice the crab on the beach, it doesn't just come and catch your leg. If your leg is the object of its route, path, it doesn't go straight and catches your leg. It will go this side, it will go that side, it will go like this, and then your mind is somewhere else. You're watching the waves, you're watching this, and then suddenly it will come. So this is called Kutilayam Gatau. The path is crooked. And the crooked path here is in the form of Avarna Shakti of Maya. Vikshepa Shakti is exempted. Why is Vikshepa Shakti exempted? Because it is Ishvara Srishti. Avarna is affecting the Jiva. So therefore it has to be corrected through Atmajnanam. The Avarna has to be removed through the study of the Shastra, through a committed study of the Shastra. And as long as the Avarna means the covering power of Maya, Avidya. So as long as Atma Ajnanam is there, everything starts to look crooked. Everything, we don't choose the straight path. We go this way, that way, make everything more and more complicated than it needs to be. More and more difficult, more and more entangled. Here we are trying to get out of the entanglement. Then you find that then we find that we are much more entangled than before. As we want to get out of the entanglement, we don't make intelligent choices. Why? Avarna is there. There is a covering as though. Nothing can cover the Atma, but as though covering is there. There is a kind of a confusion, a delusion is there. So that Maya, elsewhere Adi Shankara describes in the Maya Panchakam as Aghatita Ghatana Patiyasi Maya. Patiyasi means the most clever one. So Patutama it means. So Patiyasi Maya. And so Patutara Maya, it means the cleverest Maya. What does she do? Aghatita Ghatana Ghatayati. So whatever is not happened, she makes it look like it has happened. Whatever has happened looks like it has not happened. So this is the Avarna. So then where is this Brahman? The Brahman is to be discovered where? Not after Pralaya, in where there is no Maya. Maya has retreated to Avyakta, unmanifest. Not at that time. When is Brahman to be discovered and owned up as oneself? Right here, right now. Where? In the Kutilayam Gatau. In this crooked, what should I say? Affecting of the vision. The vision is affected by Atmajnanam. So where there is oneness, I see division, and that vision of division has to be corrected right here. So that which is in Maya, that's what it means. Kutilayam Gatau Tishthan. So this is what it is. And so this is the one set of people, and then the verse is not complete. We will see it continues. Who are these people? This is the second set of people, having praised the Karma Yogis as saying that they are the best of bhaktas, and then the Jnanis or the Nirguna Upasakas he talks about, and there is one more verse to complete that, and then we will see that tonight. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi